Today I tried to draw my life, and while the drawings aren't always great, like that state of Wisconsin, they do give you a little bit of a snapshot of my life. So I was born in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, way back in 1991. If you're good at math, or I've told you, maybe you know how old I am. My family has 6 members. It's my parents, my 3 sisters, and me. I'm the second oldest kid. And growing up, that wasn't always the best, but it has its perks. We also had a black lab growing up. I'm trying to draw him really nice, but it didn't really turn out the way he looks. He's actually still around, and his name's Lucky. Growing up, I was really active. I spent most of my time outside. I didn't sit around a lot. I did like to read, but spent most of my time playing outside. My parents weren't big fans of video games, so we didn't really do that. In fact, I knew a lot of animals, and so I thought maybe when I got older, I would be a zookeeper. When I was in elementary school, eventually, when we got to 6th grade, there was only 10 kids left in my whole class. There were 4 girls and 6 boys. I knew those 10 people really well, but we were getting ready to go off to middle school where we would join a lot of other kids and our class would grow quite a bit. While I was in elementary school, I tried playing baseball, didn't really like it. I also played soccer, which I really did like. Eventually I stopped playing soccer because I joined football, but that's a little bit later in the story. I also got my black belt in karate. I did karate for 13 years. Once I got to middle school, that's when I really got into sports. So I played football, and I also started playing basketball. I really enjoyed both of those, and got to know a lot of people at the middle school by doing that. My time at the middle school wasn't always great though, because there were times where there were some kids who were not very nice to me. I did get through that though with the help of some teachers, my parents, and a couple of close friends. That's when I was getting ready to go up to the high school. And at Regis, where I went, the high school and the middle school were in one giant building. So it wasn't that different going from middle school to high school. Once I got into high school, I started getting into a couple of other activities. So I continued playing football, of course. I also continued playing basketball. And in high school, I also started running track. I was a big jumper. I didn't really like to do any of that long distance stuff, but I did like to jump and do a couple of the sprints. In addition to sports, I also got involved in a couple of different clubs and activities. I was on student council, and I got involved with our school's environmental club, which meant we got to do fun things like going fishing, going canoeing, and going camping. Speaking of camping, I was also involved in Boy Scouts. In fact, I stuck with Boy Scouts a lot in high school, and I eventually got my Eagle Scout award. This is a pretty big award that I still think about today. Because I was so involved in Scouts, I also started working at a summer camp as a camp counselor. It's there I met some of my best friends. We still stay in contact to this day. In fact, most of the time, every single week. Nearing the end of my high school career, I hit my senior year and I was really excited for football. But as many of you know, tragedy struck, and I snapped my leg 5 days into the season. I would end up having to sit out the entire season. I did get back for one game, and that was in the state championship. I got in for a play, but unfortunately we lost. When I was finishing up high school, I was trying to think about where I wanted to go to college. I looked at a place way up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan as a possible place to go. I also toured a lot of other places, but eventually settled on Stevens Point. When I toured UWSP, it really just felt like home, and that's why I decided to come here. While I was in college, I studied biology, and I studied a bunch of other sciences, like geology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, and I also got into a couple of new hobbies. One of those hobbies was rock climbing. I actually even worked at the climbing wall on campus. Another thing I got into was fishing. which is something that I really hold dear to my heart even today. Lastly, I really got into playing music and would play on the weekends with friends for a couple of other people. College is such a fun time because you get to try and experience so many different things and meet so many new people. Around this time, I also went on a couple road trips. I went all the way out to Utah and Arizona with a couple of friends on a couple of different occasions. We camped and we explored and we hiked a bunch of national parks in Utah. I cannot wait to go back. There's something about exploring those places with your friends that's so special. After 5 years, I finally graduated from UWSP. I had a double major in biology and natural science. It may have taken me an extra year, but I was really happy with my time at UWSP. And once I graduated, I needed to figure out what I was going to do with that degree. Of course, I knew I wanted to teach, but I didn't really know where necessarily, and I didn't 100% know what age level I wanted to teach. So I was trying to make that decision. I was trying to figure out what I should do. Luckily, I had a couple friends who were sticking around Stevens Point, and I thought that maybe I would too. So I started looking for jobs in Stevens Point. I did find a job and was offered to teach up in Wausau. But I decided against that because I didn't want to make that drive every single day. And instead, I settled on Stevens Point. Pacelli had a job opening when I was looking for jobs in Point after I decided I didn't want to teach in Wausau. And they offered me that job, but the only problem was that it was 2 weeks before school was about to start. It was really late in the summer when I got that job offer, but I decided to do it. The crazy part is that first year teaching was this year's graduating seniors. So I had the seniors right now of Pacelli as 8th graders in my first ever science class teaching. Kind of crazy to think about how much time flies. Along with teaching, I was coaching track and I really found my groove in what I was doing. Eventually, I knew I wanted to stay, so I bought a house. That was kind of scary, but really kind of cool. I also really got into biking and purchased a nice bike and have spent many hours and many miles on the trails in and around Stevens Point. Of course, always wearing a helmet. The other thing that I really got into was fishing. Doesn't matter if it was ice fishing or open water fishing, it's something that I love spending my time doing, and I can't wait to go the next time, every time I'm done doing it once. I really learned to love a lot of things about Stevens Point, especially the places that I could be outside, biking or fishing. I thought more and more about what I loved about here, and of course I love belts. Of course I love the Wisconsin River, and of course I love Politos, because who doesn't love pizza? I really started to think about all the things that I loved about Stevens Point, and I was really happy that all those things that happened before this led me to being here today, making this crazy YouTube video, and being here with all of you. Not really sure I would have been able to plan it out this way, but I'm glad that I didn't have to. Kind of crazy to think that after all of this, I'm sitting here making a Draw My Life video for maybe 60 or 70 views, but in a way it feels kind of relaxing. We're in a really crazy time right now. In fact, I think these videos will serve as a little bit of a time capsule for me, looking back in 30, 40, 50 years at the fact that I had to make these, or wanted to make these. I would have never guessed I'd be on YouTube. I'm hoping we get back to everything normal quickly, but for now we'll do this whole online school thing as long as we need to. I'll also keep doing my bad drawings, so thanks for sticking with me as I sketch my way through my life. I really appreciate it.